Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So on today's video, I'm going to be taking you through AliExpress and giving you guys a selection of brand new watches that have just been released in the last couple of weeks or in the last couple of days. There's roughly 5 or 6 different watches that I'm going to show you guys, and please bear in mind these are not recommendations. These are watches that I haven't touched. However, if they are from brands which I have a good dealing with, then of course I'll give you my input on that. Now, I don't know if you guys know, there is a small winter sale on AliExpress. What that means is, while it's not as good as the previous sales, you know, the 2 main ones that we get in the year, you do still have a possibility of a small saving and up to around £25, which should be around $35 depending on the coupons and the stores which are participating. So let's bring you the list, and the first one I've got for you guys is a brand new micro brand. It's called Ipose, and this watch is gathering some interest. You know, there's a lot of talk about this on the forums, and there is a bit of popularity on Instagram, etc. Now, this watch has been introduced by Watchdives, and this was only available on the website until they sold it to the distributors, which are obviously on AliExpress. Now, this watch is available on a few different stores, so I'll link a few because a couple of the stores have run out of stock. Now, this watch is actually homaging a micro brand, I believe. It's called a Serica 5303, and this has been named Ipose 5303. Now, I don't know too much detail about, you know, who the people are, but I believe Watchdives does have something to do with this, and therefore this has been released by them. Now, this watch does look very interesting. Instantly, I do really like what I see. It's got, of course, it definitely has some vintage cues behind it. You've got some great color options, and you also have 3 different movement options. So let's start off at the price. Now, the price is £225. I'll put up any conversion on the side, and you can get it in the PT5000 movement. You can also get it with a SW200 movement or an ETA 2824. Now, the Swiss movements are all genuine movements. This is what, you know, we've been told. We just have to take the word for it. But if you scroll down, take a look at some of the different color options. You've got a blue bezel option with a black dial. You've also got a white dial option with a blue bezel, and you've got a blue and red, as well as a white and red. Now, while these are renderings, let me find you guys some actual footage of the watch. So let's watch the video and see what they have for us. Now, one thing which is a bit of a nice feature, which instantly jumped out to me, was the N-link design. And now this is a shark mesh bracelet, and you guys have probably never seen me wear a shark mesh. It's because I don't like the way they fit to watches. I don't like the gap they leave. But with this watch, they've actually got fitted N-links, so the shark mesh attaches itself to the N-links, and which are female. So I think that's a nice touch. That's one of the things which did make this a bit of a standout feature. Now, let me find another store where I believe they have a few more pictures of the actual watch. Another thing you can see is you also have a California dial, which they call a limited edition, but I don't know how true that is. But you also got a box style sapphire crystal, and up close on some of these macros, the finishing does look really good. Got twisted lugs on the sides, a skin diverish look, hence, you know, giving that vintage aesthetic. Nice markings on the bezel, and you know, and Serica is a French micro brand as far as my understanding goes, and that's why you've got minutes and hours, you know, written in French English. Yeah, really good detail so far. I like the Seamaster style hands, and yeah, very interesting watch. And for £225 for the PT5000, it is pricey. It's not the cheapest one out there. However, you know, looking at the attention to detail, possibly, you know, the new brand as well, and this is not a watch which has, you know, been featured before. So let's give you a quick overview of the specifications. Now, these specifications I think are quite accurate. You do have a 39mm diameter, but that goes to 40 at the bezel, a lug to lug of 48mm, which goes up to, I think, 49.3 or 0.4 due to those female N-links, and a 12.5mm thickness on the case. So there's a lot of detail on this particular store. As I said, I'll link a few of the stores in. Let's have a quick look at some of the pictures. There's a California dial, and yeah, it looks okay. It looks decent, right? I mean, don't take it as a recommendation. And this watch, I will be trying my best to get this in, as I definitely like to get a look at this. I think it's very interesting. Of course, it's Homage, a micro brand, but it does look really well executed, and apparently it's loomed really well. And that's one of the details you'll find within the description, that it's got up to 50 layers of loom printed onto that dial. So let's see what this watch holds, and let's move on to the next one down the list. Now this is by Octopus. You guys should know who they are, the Octopus Kraken store. And now they've come out with a BB58 Homage with a 39mm case. And yeah, it looks okay. I have requested a review model. They did say they'll get back to me. And Octopus make decently made watches, and looking at some of these close-up pictures, you know, of the actual watch, it looks to be relatively well made, but again, not a recommendation from myself. Let's have a look at the movement options. You've got a PT5000 and a SW200 option, as well as the black and gilt and blue option. Price for this is £240, and you can get £25 off with the promotion on AliExpress. Now if we move on down, now this watch was released near enough the same time that San Martin released their vintage diver, you know, the new retro sub at 38mm. Now I did review that model. However, I made a couple of observations. One of them was that washed out grey dial. Now with the Watchdives and San Martin collab, they seem to have fixed that. They've gone for a glossy black dial with these, you know, broad sword hands. So that looks really good. I much prefer this to you know, how the older San Martin looked. And this is not available on San Martin store. Now Watchdives had this on their website, but now it is available to the distributors on AliExpress. The price point is £170. Looking at the ratings, out of 95 orders, it's a very strong rating of 4.9. They do have a few different options. Well, there was included the BB58s as well, and you also got that vintage 14 lume as well. From what I can say with the San Martin one, mine did have a QC issue of a misaligned bezel. They also don't use a Seiko NH38. They use a Seiko NH35 with a ghost position. But you know, that's what we're getting. I'd hope, you know, they went for an NH38. However, with this watch as it is, £170, I think is reasonable because the watch is really well made. Next one on the list is a brand called Thorn. Now I have featured Thorn on this channel a couple of times, but they've been quiet for about a year or so, and now they've come up with a BB58 Homage. They've given us a few different options. Now there's a bit of background to this. So on AliExpress, you know, if you're into watch modding, you would have seen these cases coming up for sale before this watch was actually made. So there was a number of sellers selling these, you know, new improved BB58 style cases, and using the feedback from the people that bought those cases, there was really good feedback. They said good bezel action, really well finished case, and you know, you can see that with some of the close-ups. You can see some of the brushing, you can see the, you know, polished sides of the lugs on this bracelet, on this case, sorry, and the female end link bracelet. But you know, you can only go by so much on pictures, so again, not a recommendation, but you know, just pointing you towards some finer details. So now Thorn have basically got those cases and bracelets and just put in their own dial, and Thorn have updated the logo slightly. Before it was a bit of a scribble. Now they've got a slight logo and they've got some stylized font. You've got a vintage 369 dial, and with this particular one you've also got the snowflake style hand. So let's just zoom in and have a look at that. Bubble crystal, yeah, good size, and as I said, I've got good feedback from the case, you know, from the guys that bought these for the mods. But now it's nice to see, you know, another company take it and put some dials in there. But this is effectively what 80-90% of AliExpress is. So I get why people don't like it, because it is just random guys picking up, you know, cases from factories, getting dials printed and just putting them all together. So that doesn't really qualify them to be a micro brand, which is why you'll find so many, how can I put it, so many issues with AliExpress watches. A lot of the times the guys, you know, putting up the money for these watches don't really know much about watches. Therefore you'll find some, you know, massive and glaring errors. For the most part, it's enjoyable, it's cheap. And when I talk about cheap, going back to the price on this, it's only £116 in comparison to the Octopus one that we just saw. So very cheap. NH35, very affordable, dateless, so you're going to get a ghost position, and it's also one for the modders. You know, you can buy the case and bracelet for around £60. However, for 116, you know, you get some hands, you get a movement as well, and you know, if you don't like the dial, you can always change that. So there is another version to this. This is, they do have a stainless steel bezel version as well. So this version that we have here is another Tudor Homage, the GMT without the GMT. So you got snowflake hands with that yellow hand, and that 24-hour static bezel. So it looks okay, but probably not quite right. But with this one, you've got a stainless steel version, stainless steel bezel insert, and you've got a black or greyed out dial with the green markings and silver hands, and that looks quite catchy. I do like that, and I do like the stainless steel bezel version. So going back to what I said, I've heard good things about the cases, but so it might be worth checking out. Now, the stuff I've seen from Thorn hasn't been overly bad. Sure, there's been quite a bit of room for improvement, but nothing, that bad. So moving on to the next two, let's look at the Seestern. Now, this Seestern came out towards the end of 2022. I did do a post about this, and this one I'm very unsure about. And the first thing is, of course, the visuals. It is homaging a GS diver. It's homaging the same GS diver that Pagani Design homaged, and what we know about Seestern is that it will be executed well enough. You'll have great finishing, you'll have great lume, and the watch will feel fantastic in hand. However, not too sure about the design. I'm not too sure about the Arabics that you can see, the 12369, and with the poll that I did, it was a bit of a 50-50. Quite a few people did like it, but there was a lot of people that said, look, they don't think it works. I don't know which one it is for you guys, but let's continue talking about it. You've got 3 different dial options. You've got a blue sunburst fume-ish style dial, and you've got a pure white one with a blue Seamaster style bezel, and also you got a black sunburst. Now, as I said, going back to the watch case and the watch head itself and the bracelet, that should be really well made. We've seen that from Seestern time and time again. We haven't seen anything really bad from them. They have changed the crown on this picture, so that's the S rather than the starfish logo. You've got some really nicely brushed hands, and you can see that capped second hand, so that's a nice touch as well. So it's definitely worth checking out. Price point is very competitive. It's £125 or just under £126. I'd expect this watch from Seestern to sit around 160, 180, which still wouldn't be bad, but that is very cheap, and it is from the Seestern official store. So that is definitely one to check out if the design is for you. In terms of dimensions, we've got 44mm case, thickness of 13mm. Does it give us a lug-to-lug? Yes, of 47mm. So another interesting option. Now, the last one on our list today is a watch from Sugess. You guys know these are the king of pilot watches, using the ST19 Seagull movement, which is a mechanical chronograph movement. Now, this one does actually feature a power reserve, which I think, it's long awaited. It's a great idea. Of course, you want a power reserve with a movement that you don't know, which is basically not automatic. Now, this one does have a nice brush blue dial, and you've got some shading on the two panda parts of those sub dials, and a power reserve indicator just above the 6. So interesting enough, they have gone away from that 6 o'clock sub dial, which gives you a bit of a useless sub dial. So I do like the design, and from Sugess, cases are well made, and they do work. So that's an interesting option. They do have a few different colors which they had released previously. This one with a sunburst blue, giving you the same sort of complications, and a white one with the blued hands. And I believe the dimensions on this, it does look slightly large, so it might be 40mm. Let me scroll down. 41mm, so quite a large watch. 15mm thick due to that box sapphire crystal, and a lug-to-lug of 50mm. Yeah, so it's a typical pilot watch, with those oversized and long lugs, and slightly large, giving you good visibility. And small watches are not for everyone. I am starting to read a lot more comments which people want slightly larger watches, so this may be the one for you guys. Price point is £182, and this is what Sugess tend to sit at. So this is it. This is my list. These all are new releases on AliExpress, definitely worth checking out. And I might have a look at I definitely want to have a look at the Ipose, and maybe check out one of the Thorn variants, which I'm currently working on. So that's it from me today, guys. Let me know in the comment section which one appeals to you most, and if you have any experience with any of the models that I've shown you. I think the subscribers will find that very useful. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.